What's happening, and welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about how to start a podcast as a thought leader. So, this is going to be the wisdom that I gained over the past 7 years, and I'm going to share it with you. I'm going to give you 5 things today that could help any person that knows that they have a thought, in any person that feels like they want to get their message out. I'm going to share with you 5 things that I did that could potentially help you to become a podcaster or someone who brings their thoughts to the marketplace. All right, so let's jump right in. So I went back and looked. You ever gone back and look at something and I ask you a question like, when you go back and look at things, what are you looking for? So if you were looking over your life, if you're looking over your business, if you're looking over something that's already happened in your life or something you already did, what are you looking for? So I said, man, you know what? I remember when I started. You want to know the exact date that I started? I started on June the 6th, 2017. How do I know that? See, what's crazy is like on Facebook, the way that it's set up, you can't get right to some of the old stuff. And luckily for me, I said, man, let me save some of these links. So my first 1, 2, 3, 4, my first 8, no, 7, my first 7 audio broadcasts. The links were dead. Like I couldn't get back to them. I was salty, but I got a whole bunch of other ones. But yes. So June 6th of 2017 was the date that I was called into this world of thought leadership. And on that date, it was just like, hey, turn the phone on, start talking to it. And here's what I talked about. I talked about open hand versus closed hand. I wish I had the audio, but that audio wasn't available. I couldn't get it. But yeah, so open hand versus closed hand. And I was on a journey at that time. Like I just started getting some coaching from, I just joined an accounting marketing coach. And I was getting some coaching and I was on this health journey. And that's what I talked about. I was known for somebody always working out, going running, posting stuff, being at the gym. Like that's what I did all the time, which is crazy. I don't really post anything at the gym anymore, which I could. It's weird. I probably go into that another day, but I don't post anything. But that's what I used to talk about. I used to talk about being healthy. It was account for your health. That's where I started. Account for your health. I said, you know what? This is what I'm doing. Maybe somebody else wants to account for their health. And I was just talking, right? And I was just talking about the stuff that I was dealing with. So the first thing, right? The first thing that you want to consider, like if you got something to say, you got something to write, there's something that you got to put into the world, go before you know. That's number one. Go before you know. And when I say go before you don't really know how it's going to end. You may not even know. See, for me, I didn't even know why I was doing it. I was called into it. So as I'm being called into it, it's just like, go. I was like, go where? And at the time I was yielded over. I was yielded over to, to God. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go, and I'm going to talk because for me, I needed some time. See, sometimes when you go, you don't know why you're going, except when you are put on mission. So when you're put on mission, then that's what trumps everything. Number 2, start before you feel ready. I didn't feel ready. I was not ready look, back then it was an audio because I wasn't ready to put myself on video, which is kind of wild because I did videos. And the things I did videos on like accounting and tax stuff, the stuff that I was, my field. And I don't even do as many videos about that, which I need to start doing more of accounting and tax, more tax stuff. But those are the videos I did. I did health videos. But this type of video, I was afraid. I was afraid to do them because I was just like, because thought leadership is saying that you know something. That's in essence what you're saying. I know something. And if now I'm talking to people, I'm talking to friends, and like, I don't want them to think I know everything. So I was afraid. And I was like, I just turned on. And so the audio, I turned it on. I said, no one can see my face. I could be kind of moving around. I don't have to look in the camera. I could just do whatever I want, which was kind of cool. There was times when I would record while I was driving. So I didn't, so it was cool because I can kind of do it on the fly, do it on the go. And I did that all the time. So start before you're ready. Those are the first two things. So the first one was go before you know, start before you're ready. And number three, talk about what you're working on that you know is your problem, right? That you know is your problem. See, because at the end of the day, becoming a thought leader, you may not have, some of these things may not be proved, and they may not be proved for other people, right? So you got to talk about the things. I'm just talking about the stuff going on in my life. I talked about the, a lot of the problems that I was dealing with, the things that I was working on, and at the time, and then you're kind of inviting people into that conversation, and and that's how you become a thought leader, because now what's happening is you're starting to share knowledge. You're sharing knowledge about what you're reading. You're sharing knowledge about, I shared knowledge about places that I went, programs that I was in, things that I was learning. I shared knowledge about all that stuff. But usually I just kind of like stayed there. I didn't really talk about, oh, well, it's working for this person, working for this person, because that's not really what it was all about. It was about the the leadership that I was learning. I was becoming a thought leader. So talk about what you're working on. That's your problem. Number four, decide when you want to do it. The day, the time. Like, this one's big, right? Because for me, I didn't make a clear distinction as to when I was going to do it in the beginning. I just was kind of doing it haphazardly. And I'm looking at the dates. I did it one day, I did it the next day, I skipped a day, I skipped 5 days, skipped 3 days, did it the next day, did it the next day, did the next day, skipped it. So I wasn't really being consistent. I was just turning it on when I maybe had an idea or had a thought. And that's okay, right? Because you could say, the moment I get a thought, maybe I'll do a recording. You could say that. But back then it was just like, for me, it was like, I'm doing it. And I started doing it more often. And what happened was I got tired. It got tiring. And I was a little upset about it, because man, I wanted this to work to the point where I could actually earn money from it. Like, I thought this is going to start making me money. I'm doing this thing, and people are going to automatically just start listening to it. And no, that wasn't the case. And I had to grow, and I'm still growing. And it's coming on 7 years. Like, literally, we are 30 30 da- 29 days. And after today, we're 29 days away from our 1,000th episode. And I just decided, I said, you know what? Where have we come from? You know, what's happened in the past 7 years? Like, what's in the archives? And I says, wow, there's a lot in the archives. There's a lot that I can probably teach people about turning on the microphone, about learning how to speak without notes, learning how to just kind of share, authentically about who you are, what you're doing, and not hold back. There's probably much that I can potentially teach people about it. I never thought about doing that. And then when I says, well, you know what? See, I have a different kind of podcast. I have a thought leaders podcast. A thought leaders podcast is their thoughts. It's not an interview. Wherein most people podcast today, it's an interview podcast. That's more like a news program. It's not. So podcasts were individuals first. In the beginning was individuals first. And then there's a guy, John Lee Dumas, who had a business podcast that brought people, like he has one of the, I think it's Entrepreneur on Fire, one of the top business podcasts, where he interviewed, entrepreneurs. And but I followed the model that Russell Brunson had. Russell Brunson had a podcast. I think he still does. Um, but it was just him. He just turned on the mic. He literally did audio. He just turned on this thing and he recorded. I think there was another guy that I had learned from early on. And I said, that's what I want to do. Because at the end of the day, I didn't know that I wanted to be a thought leader until thought leader was something that kind of showed up. And I was like all of last year, I was in a coaching program for thought leaders. So decide when you're going to do it. And for me, I decided to start doing it every day, literally every single day. Post a podcast. We did 9 o'clock, we've done 8 o'clock, we've done 10 o'clock. These days, 9 o'clock is the time when it tends to go live. So decide when you're going to do it. And lastly, just dedicate your life to becoming you. Dedicate your life to becoming you. So when you think about being a thought leader, like that's who we all are. We all are thought leaders. Everyone is a thought leader. And when I say everyone's a thought leader, I discovered that everyone is a leader. And based on what society tells us, they would say, no, everyone's not a leader. Everyone is a leader. Everyone, the first leadership must lead themselves. So as long as we know how to lead ourselves, then we are a leader. So everyone is a leader. Now, everyone has different levels of leadership. Everyone's going to do different things. So there's going to be times where, yeah, I'm going to be underneath people. There's some people that you will be underneath. You still have your thing, right? I'm underneath a number of people who I look up to, or folks that I'm learning from. I'm underneath, but I'm also deployed into my own personal leadership. And because I'm deployed in my own personal leadership, I get to lead, and I get to be a thought leader in my personal leadership. Just like you have personal leadership, there's something, it's kind of like gifts. Everybody's gift is different. So that means that your leadership is slightly different. Like we could both be in accounting, we could both be in tax, and yet our leadership is totally different. We can have, we can both talk about tax strategy. We can both talk about finances and financial statements. Then I'm the healthy accountant. I help people to account for their life. So the lens that I'm coming from is way different than the other person who has a different personal leadership outside of tax or accounting. So it doesn't really matter, because there's room for everybody. It's kind of like, I heard someone talking about this week, one of my mentors. He was talking about how people, or when it comes to money, have you ever heard the phrase, get a piece of the pie? Like you want to get a piece of the economic pie. Have you ever heard that? And I remember hearing that. And what does that mean? If you were to get a piece of the economic pie, if we were looking at the pie, then that means at some point the pie is eaten up. There's not enough pie. Like, yeah, so now I get it. That's why it would seem like there's not enough. That's why it would seem like, wow, it's not enough for me to go out here and get my piece, or I won't be able to get a big enough piece for what I want to do. But really, when you think about anything that's here in this realm, there's just about most resources is unlimited. I can't go and just, I'm not going to point them out. I'm just going to say most. A lot of resources are unlimited. We've just been told that they are limited. We've been told that, it's a bunch of things that I could mention. I'm not going to mention it though. I don't have time for that today. But at any rate, especially when it comes to money, it's unlimited. When money is spiritual, money is not physical. Money is spiritual. It's not unlimited. There's enough money for everybody to get what they want and need. There's enough of that. But here's the thing. How does a person discover that? A person has to discover that through their thoughts, through their understanding. That's why when you become a thought leader, your job is to put your thoughts out. That's your job, right? And a podcast can help to do that. And you don't some people do start, let me start a podcast and make money. Okay, great. You can. There's a way to do it. Why? How could a podcast make money? I didn't do that. but I will. But I will. I didn't do that initially because it was just becoming. I was becoming this person. I was dedicating my life to something bigger than me. And I was just like, okay, let's go. But then when I look back now at what people do, you could just recommend on other people's products. You don't have to have your own. You can just recommend someone else's product based on the people that's coming to your channel, the people that's coming to your podcast. If you know the kind of people that's coming, recommend somebody's thing. And that could start making you some money. So at the end of the day, you can start a podcast to make money. It's just that most of the time, it's not going to happen fast. Most of the time. Here's the thing. Last thing that I'm going to say, and I'm going to let you go. Why would you become a thought leader? Why would you become a thought leader? You would become a thought leader because that will expose your personal leadership. That's what it would do. It would expose it. It would let people know. It will let your world know, your friends know, the people that can come in contact with you. It will let them know what you are thinking. Thought leader. So here it is. My thought leadership has nothing to do with anybody else except for me. So you should become a thought leader so that people will know exactly how you think, exactly what you're about. So that when they come to your channels, when they come to let me see what they're talking about, they could find out about what you're thinking, the things that you do, and how you're doing. And the nigga said, man, I like this person. Or I don't resonate with that. Great. That's perfect. Because your thought leadership, my thought leadership is not for everybody. So if you want to start a podcast, or if you have an idea and thought leadership sounds like something good for you, then start a podcast. And remember these 5 things. Go before you know. Start before you're ready. Talk about what you're working on. That's your problem. Decide when you'll do it. That means put the date on it and the time that you're going to release them. And then dedicate your life to becoming you. Those are the 5 things that I would do if I was starting over. But I don't have to. And that's why I'm sharing it with you. Start a podcast, become a thought leader, and let people know what you're thinking. Guys, I thank you for joining me for this episode of the I AFYL Podcast. We have exactly 29 more days. 28 more days. 29. I'm sorry. 29 more days until our 1,000th episode on April the 27th. I hope that you would join us. And I hope that if you want to be a thought leader, that you actually take the plunge and go for it. Guys, I thank you for joining me. I will see you on the next episode. Peace.
This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time, make it a great day.